Once Upon a Time in the West can be considered Sergio Leone's crowning jewel of directing, with its phenomenal camera work and Morricone's impressive musical scores. It's the story of a man betrayed, a widow, a framed murderer, and the corrupt railroad man pulling the strings as a fight over land with water culminates into a dramatic ending that stays in the mind long after the curtains close. Charles Bronson stars as Harmonica, the gunslinger bent on vengeance, reluctantly agreeing to help Claudia Cardindale's character protect her late husband's homestead, while Henry Fonda tries ruthlessly to kill them as a pitiless railroad man desperate for the land. Everything is about this 1969 film helped to establish the quintessential westerns of the 70s. The scene you're about to see details the arrival of Bronson's character into the story arc, but it's done in a very unique and craftful way. Leone's opening scene for Once Upon a Time in the West really does capture the fact that you can use subtle elements to capture a story without a tremendous use of dialogue. For instance, you see here a sequence of close-ups of three men cut in such a way that you can understand there's some sort of familiar relationship between them. And that sound of the train is like a deep heartbeat, really highlighting just how nervous the men are and that their attention is on this. And as you notice, there are quite a few shots where the train is in focus in the background, and also quite a few shots of the men's guns. Now this really highlights how wary they are of whatever's on that train, because they're fiddling, they're twitching, but it's so subtle. They're not very nervous in the face, they're not sweating, they're not dancing around, but all the same, it's almost more powerful. Now here's the first time that we see camera movement in this scene, which is when the men are approaching each other. It's a long shot, but it's also deep focus. You see not only the foreground, but the train, the water tower, and even the mountains to some extent. This really does highlight the bleak surroundings and really brings into emphasis this tension of what is going to happen in such an incongruous place. Now this shot coming up right here is very beautiful in my opinion. As the train pulls away, you will see that Bronson is perfectly framed in between two of the men in the group. Now, this not only highlights the badassery, if you will, of Bronson's character, but the conflict between the two groups. No words are said, there's no dialogue up to this point, but it's still conflicted. And there's that haunting tune of the harmonica, which further used to develop Bronson's character as this foreboding man.
And Frank?
Frank sent us.
Did you bring a horse for me?
Well, looks like we're shy of one horse.
You brought too many.
And there you have it, just 5 lines of subdued dialogue to signal the dramatic conclusion of this exposition scene, which wouldn't have the same impact if Leone hadn't intentionally used subtle means to establish the conflict.